The artist manager that I chose to conduct a review on was Jon Landau. Many people confuse the music producer Jon Landau with the Jon Landau that is a film producer and worked on the movie Avatar. However, I'm referring to the Jon Landau that was born years prior and worked with many influential artists such as Bruce Springsteen, Livingston Taylor, and Jackson Browne. In this presentation, we'll look a little bit at his life, his background, his portfolio, and how he discovered some of his artists that he ended up producing and managing. Jon Landau was born on May 14, 1947. He grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and attended Brandeis University, majoring in history. He also was married twice, but most recently to Barbara Downey, where he had 2 children, Kate and Charles, and Kate is also an artist manager. Some of the background behind Jon Landau and how he got into producing music and managing artists starts from his college days and the unsuccessful band he was in. He then began writing music reviews about artists and bands that he'd seen or heard for a magazine called Crawdaddy. His writings began to get noticed and made their way over to a California student named Jan Wenner, who was starting up a musical magazine called Rolling Stone, where Landau debuted as a writer in the first issue, writing a negative review for Jimi Hendrix's debut album, Cream. Landau still had aspirations to be a part of the music-making process, so he became friends with the Atlantic Records head named Jerry Wexler and convinced him to sign a group called the J. Giles Band that Landau was producing. This band fell apart before the album was even completed. After that, the next major band that Landau pitched to Wexler was the band called MC5. Landau worked with the band to produce the album Born in the USA, but that album also was a flop. After each flop band, Jon went back to writing reviews until he went to see a young artist play a show in Cambridge, Massachusetts. This young rock and roll artist named Bruce Springsteen displayed such a show for Landau that he wrote in his review that Springsteen was rock and roll future. Jon did several reviews of Springsteen, and they talked quite a bit where Landau provided suggestions on production to Springsteen. This ultimately led to Landau producing the first album for Bruce Springsteen. This slide shows many of the artists and credits that Jon Landau has under his belt, and you can see that his career starts with reviews of bands like Otis Redding, the Nazz, Aretha Franklin, and Wilson Pickett. It wasn't until MC5 and Livingston Taylor that Jon finally got credited with the producer credits. Once Jon began to work with Bruce Springsteen, that's when he mainly took over as being a producer for Springsteen, as well as other artists such as Jackson Browne, Livingston Taylor, and MC5. He was also responsible for producing the 2013 Grammy nominations. For ways that Jon Landau discovered artists that he's worked with, I looked at 2 of the most notable artists. The first one is Livingston Taylor. Jon discovered this artist through a happenstance in college. Jon's roommate knew Livingston and put the 2 in touch with each other. Jon put aside his own musical aspirations and helped produce Livingston's first album, which was a collection of ballads that Livingston Taylor wrote, and it was released in 1970. It wasn't until May of 1974 when Landau crossed paths with Bruce Springsteen at a concert he was putting on in Cambridge, Massachusetts. After the concert, Jon wrote several reviews about Springsteen and also had collaborative talks with him about certain production techniques that Bruce could use on his music. This ultimately led to Landau becoming the producer over Springsteen's first album, Born to Run. Some of the lessons and management styles of Jon Landau show us that as an artist manager, it's best to help develop the artists into new creative areas that do not compromise the integrity of their creativity, or as others put it, selling out. Landau was the type of person that shied away from the commercial aspect of his own musical ventures, but that didn't mean he wasn't fully versed in how to get someone else to make money from their musical talents. This prospect is what he did with Bruce Springsteen, working with him and developing his image and sound in such a way that he was able to appeal to so many fans that his records have gone platinum, and his most recent album in 2012 sold over $210 million worth of sales. Some of the things that I learned from reviewing the extensive career of Jon Landau is, first, expect the unexpected. In the music industry, many things happen that you don't expect, such as being sure you're in a good band, but it goes nowhere, or being sure you have a great band that you want to produce and record, but they break up before the album is finished, or another band you're sure is good, but their album doesn't sell for anything. Pushing through all this adversity builds your experience and teaches you what to do and what not to do, and will always be an invaluable lesson that everyone should learn. Second, pursuing business creativity refers to pushing your artists to their creative maximum without compromising their unique sound that fans fell in love with. Most artists may feel that they have a good grasp on the commercial aspects of their business, but there will always be something they're missing. The use of an artist manager would undoubtedly help them to be pushed out of their comfort zone, which usually leads to breakthroughs in creativity and boosts artist sales to new youthful fans. Lastly, selling out versus selling out talks about understanding the fundamental difference between making yourself more commercially acceptable, which will sell out shows for the artist, and not having the artist sell out themselves to compromise their integrity just in an attempt to make money. By selling out their sound, many artists end up losing fans and permanently damaging their careers. Some can bounce back from this, others cannot. It's important as an artist manager to ensure you understand the difference between these two concepts and keep your artist selling out shows rather than selling out himself or herself.